This is the gameplay and setup video for Deadly Waters, the board games made in GAM125 in fall of 2018. So to set up the board, what I've done is I've placed all these chests on these dotted islands. This one's not dotted, right, so you wouldn't have any there. So these treasure chests create circles around the map in these patterns, which I'll explain why that is in a second. So the goal of the game is to get as many treasure chests by the end. So there's 3 players, and it's a roll the die game, right? So you move the amount of spaces, unless you get a modifier card. Maybe you get to roll twice or something like that, but we'll get to the modifier cards. So the setup goes that we're going to place these ships, which is the player ships, into the center of the board on the eyes and nose socket. And we're also going to set up these krakens. It specifies in the rules. By the way, here's the rule book, if you will, map, I guess it kind of looks like. Anyways, so basically it states place the krakens, there's 4 of them within these 4 loops of treasure chests anywhere. So let's say I'll pick this island here, right? And then let's put, see there's a circle here, so let's put him here. We'll do another one, let's just say right here, and another one over here. There we go. So basically the players decide who wants to go first. You could flip, roll the die, whoever has the highest number, that kind of thing. So let's do we'll do a few mock moves. 1, of course, I always roll 1 on the first try. So you can go any direction you want from here, right? So the idea is to go towards where you think you can get the most treasure chests starting out. Or, I mean, it's pretty spread out evenly, but, players have their hunch and they're going to go where they want. So we'll move this way toward this island. Okay, let's do the next player. So I'll do a full round to show you what that means. What is that, 6? So I should be able to get to a treasure chest with, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I should be able to get to this treasure chest here. So now I have that. And I have this in my possession. It is now something I can deposit. But I can only deposit it by going back to one of these black spots on the map. And once I do that, what I do is I typically have another pile I create. I just kind of move it over. There was a good suggestion by you, Derek, to have mats, but we just didn't get to doing it. This is kind of sufficed for now, but it isn't ideal. Okay, so now one of the I got exactly 6, but let's say that I had rolled a 6 and this was 5 spaces. Or 5 to the island. I still would have had to stop on the 5th space because you have to stop on the islands as you go. Now the reason for that, and I'll go into the krakens now, is because after the 3rd player goes on the round, that 3rd player who rolls will roll for the kraken. So that means, or the krakens. So now all the krakens are going to move 3 spots, right? So you have this kraken, 1, 2, 3. And they move based on the islands, the dotted islands. 1, 2, 3, right? And so let's say somehow the kraken was over here and I rolled like a 4 or 5 or whatever the number is to get over here, and I landed on this. Then it's going to send the player back to what we call town. It's the skull holes, but we could just call it town. To deposit, and let's see here. Oh yeah, then you lose your treasure. So you put your treasure back, right? And you go back to town. So that's why we decided to have players stop on the islands, so that there's a threat, to the player from these krakens. And I didn't move all the krakens, but everyone will kind of help move the Krakens depending where you're sitting. That's kind of how we've been playing it in prototypes, and that's worked pretty well. That way, not one player's moving all four of those. So it's kind of cool joint effort when everyone's kind of getting involved, and some of the other students did pretty well with that. They were really actually getting into it. Let's see here. So let's say I land on. Let's say I would have landed on red. Then, and I have these cards memorized, I just haven't flipped over. The red cards, and because there's a dot on the back, I have a green dot to let players know that's the green, so you haven't flipped over. But I want to have the art shown, and let's see here. So that would be red. I know these are red. Yep. And Ghost of the Past, lose your next turn to get back to normal. Okay. Let's lose your turn, right? Put it back in the pile. You could shuffle it, or you could put it under the bottom, whatever, house rules kind of thing. And then I'll just kind of go over these other piles here. This is kind of the last, this is one of the newer mechanics. It's still a card mechanic, but we've made these cards extra powerful and limited to get. So you can only get, these are called the hero cards. You have Davy or Blackbeard, you have Mermaid, and you have the Davy Jones card. And you can draw them by landing on Davy Jones yellow space, the Mermaid yellow space, or Blackbeard yellow space. It's got the grog up there. So they have their own piles. So let's say I land on the Mermaid. I'm over here. I'm on yellow. I'm gonna pull a Mermaid. Fast travel to another hero space. Well, that's pretty sweet. Because over time you kind of learn what heroes have what cards. And you can use them to your advantage depending on the state of the game where you're at. Because some of them have, like, let's see, Davy Jones. Or no, I think it might be Blackbeard. It has some really good ones that I like. Blackbeard. Yeah, destroy all players and send them back to town and they lose all their treasure. That's pretty brutal. So, knowing that card's in the deck after I played for a while, I might choose to go to Blackbeard depending on, let's say everyone's stocked with treasure chests. Right now, players aren't, so maybe I wouldn't want to do that. Maybe I'd want to go to Davy Jones. Let's head over here. Davy Jones, send a Kraken to town until a player goes there. And that's pretty good. Let's see what else. Send a Kraken after a player's hero. A player loses hero card. And what else? Send a Kraken to a player instantly on any space. So that's pretty good. So they're pretty OP, but that's kind of why there are only special spaces out on the edges of the map, and there's only 3 total on the board versus you have all these green modifier, red modifier cards from the original. The board is updated to be 2 by 2 foot at this point. I think originally it was about a foot, a little over a foot and a half. So it's grown. It's been colored more cartoon style from the original. Let's see what other things I can go over. Oh, yeah. So these black dots are cannonballs, right? So in the rules it states that if another player is within, let's say they're there, whatever. If they're within 10 spaces, let's say I land on here and this person has treasure, I can shoot him, send him back to town where they started, and they lose their treasure. So the cannonballs are really nice to try to land on, especially when people are in collecting treasure phase mode. I think that's pretty much the last mechanic. You kind of scour the rules real briefly. The Krakens move clockwise around all that. So I'll kind of show you the pathways here. So you have that, right? You have this. You have, I kind of pointed at the beginning, I guess, actually, and then the skull, of course, is a track for a Kraken. And that's Deadly Waters.